Hello guys, in today's video I'm joining the big discussion about Usagi and Ryuji, and I'll be sharing my full opinion on it. In my video about Season 3, I only gave a short glimpse, but here I want to dive deep into why Ryuji's character was completely useless. If you removed him from the story, nothing would really change. The more I think about it while writing this script, the more I realize he's like Junho from Squid Game. Lots of screen time dedicated to nothing. So why do I say this? Because Usagi's reason for going to the Borderlands is complete garbage, if you stop and think realistically. Usagi risked absolutely everything good in her life. Her happiness with Arisu, her new job, her future. For what? For the possibility of seeing a ghost. Yes, I get that she doesn't have her memories of the Borderlands, but even without those memories, the resolution they all reached was still imprinted on them. We saw that at the end of Season 2. Usagi's story was always tied to her father and the despair she felt because of his absence. But her journey in the Borderlands was exactly about that. It was her healing process. By the end, she had learned to forgive, let go of the past, and accept a new future with Arisu. Even if she couldn't remember it consciously, that resolution should have remained deep inside her. The show originally portrayed Usagi as someone who loved Arisu deeply and would never betray him. But in Season 3, they completely flipped that. In the earlier seasons, Usagi was the only reason Arisu survived. After the 7 of Hearts game, she was the one who took care of him when he was broken. During the Queen of Hearts game, she saved him right at the moment he was ready to give up. And in the Queen of Spades game, it was her speech that inspired everyone to take a chance at life instead of remaining trapped forever in the Borderland. That's just off the top of my head. If I rewatched the show, I could list even more examples. So you're telling me this same girl is the one we saw in the Season 3 finale? For me, that feels like a complete 180-degree turnaround. I get it. She didn't remember what happened in the Borderlands, but honestly, that still feels like a weak excuse to push the plot forward. Why didn't she tell Arisu about her nightmares? Why didn't she mention the possibility of meeting her father again? If she really loved him, she would have talked to him before blindly trusting the professor. A more believable storyline would have been if she and Arisu decided to go together to find her father. But no. Instead, we got a sorry Arisu and a half-baked romance that was totally unnecessary. And for anyone saying their interactions were just friendly touches that fit the circumstances, trust me, they weren't. The show deliberately added them to create forced romantic tension. From Ryuji's perspective, the romance sort of makes sense, because Usagi reminded him of Yano, the student who volunteered for his experiment and ultimately died. But from Usagi's perspective, nothing about it makes sense. You don't trust your husband, the father of your child, and the person you've chosen to spend your life with, but you'll trust some random psycho professor you've never met? And not just trust him, but take a lethal drug on the slim chance of seeing your missing father? Come on, Netflix, make this make sense. I dare you. Honestly, this whole Usagi-Ryuji subplot felt like it was shoved down our throats with zero logic or emotion. Netflix really messed up Usagi's character with this. Back in Season 1, she had no allies until she met Arisu, and now that same girl agrees to basically commit suicide with some weirdo. Want to hear something crazy? If you completely removed Ryuji from the story and replaced him with Banda appearing in Usagi's dreams, it would have made way more sense. Imagine Banda showing her fake visions of her father and manipulating her nightmares. Just like he invited Arisu, he could have done the same with Usagi, telling her he knew the truth about her father, and that if she wanted answers, she'd have to win the games. Everything would have played out exactly the same. The only things Ryuji actually did to change events were saving Usagi during the Bingo Tower game, which, let's be honest, was nonsense, and stopping the door from closing in the final game. That's it. For the Tokyo Tower save, even if it was implied from the start of the season that Ryuji regularly worked out, let's be real, the Tokyo Tower is 333 meters tall, and they climbed at least 250 meters of it. Are you telling me Ryuji managed to pull that off using only his upper body strength? After already being exhausted from the laser tag game and stressed out by the train game. And not only did he climb around 250 meters, but he also managed to catch Usagi as she was falling. Usagi, the professional mountain climber? I don't know about you, but to me that sounds way off. even for Alice in Borderland standards. And trust me, I know those standards. The King of Spades surviving all those wounds, or a Goonie literally punching a tiger. But I still found those more believable than everything Ryuji did in the last season. Now about his so-called save for the possible future. I wouldn't even call that a save, because if it hadn't been for Ryuji planting seeds of doubt in everyone's minds, maybe they would have listened to Arisu's plan and things would have gone more smoothly. Instead, he was out there saying things like, "Why do we have to follow Arisu?" He even said that to Usagi. And his so-called redemption at the end? Completely nonsensical. He spent the whole last episode flip-flopping. "I'll kill her. No, I'll save her. No, wait, let's die together in the afterlife." By the finale, it felt like he changed his mind every 5 minutes. That last vortex scene was the cherry on top of the nonsense. He dragged Usagi into it with him, swimming through a vortex while holding her, ready for them both to die together. Then suddenly, after seeing Arisu coming to save her, he had a change of heart. And let's talk about Usagi's actions here for a second. The whole time she was in Ryuji's arms, she screamed for Arisu. Then the moment she was in Arisu's arms, she started screaming for Ryuji. What was that about? Pick a side. Don't cry for the guy who literally just told you, "Let's die together," while also crying for your actual partner in the same breath. The excessive care and romance between Usagi and Ryuji should never have existed. It felt like a betrayal of Arisu. Honestly, if I were Arisu, risking my life going back into a world that broke me just to save my wife, who disappeared without saying anything more than sorry, and then the first thing I saw was her hugging another guy, I'd lose my mind. And to make it worse, the only explanation Arisu ever gets is from an interview, where Usagi says, "I couldn't tell my husband, but I can tell you." That's insane. And when Arisu finally confronts Ryuji and punches him, what does Usagi do? She takes Ryuji's side. She doesn't try to understand Arisu's feelings. She doesn't try to explain herself. She just defends Ryuji. That entire scene made Arisu look like some jealous, controlling husband, while Ryuji looked like an innocent victim. If that isn't emotional cheating, I don't know what is. Honestly, they should have just gone all the way and made Ryuji a proper antagonist, instead of this weak, romanticized excuse. His obsession could have been tied directly to his failed experiment with his student. He could have seen Usagi as a replacement for Yano and tried to drag her into death with him as closure. Make him actually try to kill her. Show us he's dangerous, not just hint at it. And why was it that only Arisu seemed to know Ryuji wanted to kill her? They were all on that same tiny scaffolding. How is everyone else clueless? And that's the bigger problem. This season had no real antagonist. Banda doesn't count. He had barely any screen time and was killed off with no proper explanation. The Watchman doesn't count either. If anything, he felt like a fraud. His whole explanation was weak and unconvincing. And I know some people won't like me saying this, but honestly, even Arisu surviving felt weird. The Watchman made him choose. The vortex meant death, the light meant life. Arisu chose death when he jumped into the vortex to save Usagi, but somehow he survived anyway. What kind of favoritism is that? It made the Borderlands feel rigged, not survival of the fittest or based on merit, but based on narrative nepotism. That goes against the entire philosophy of the Borderlands, but that's a discussion for another video. This video is about how the relationship between Usagi and Ryuji made no sense. The overextended romance, the half-baked resolution, the absurd reason Usagi returned, and her complete mistrust of Arisu in the real world. All of it felt forced, out of place, and inconsistent with her character. But hey, that's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments, and if there's a specific topic you'd like me to cover, drop it down below and I'll make a video on it.